No, we got room. We're good. Yeah, we're good. We got room. I mean, Dave, good to see you, dude. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we are going... Let's make sure we get this right. So, yeah, this is going from SPS, so Kilo Sierra, Papa Sierra, to Missoula International, which is Kilo Mike Sierra Oscar. And fuel here is cheap. We're going to load up on that. So that is going to put us at a zero fuel weight of 118. Actually, I take that back. It's going to be 128 if we're rounding up. Fuel is 46062,000 pounds. Who made the Cessna 310 you guys were just flying in? That was Milviz. Milviz did a really good job at that on that aircraft. And I do believe it is in the marketplace. I do believe it is now. Although that wasn't where I got it initially. I don't think, anyway. I could be wrong. I'm often wrong. It's not uncommon that I am wrong. This apparently is having a high server load. Apparently a lot of people are using SimBrief. This was actually having a high server load yesterday, too. A lot of people flying on the weekends. Okay, so we are departing runway 33 center and arriving at 30. And we need a route. We need to find a route. Because there was not one available. Or, I guess, automatically available anyway. Dude, this thing really is having a heck of a time with server load. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So Kilo Sierra Papa Sierra to Kilo Mike Sierra Oscar. And of course, anyone can join in on a flight if you want. We're on the, of course, the USA East server. So yeah, we're gonna be down here just south of Oklahoma City, and we're going to be heading all the way up here to Missoula International. So that'll be fun. It looks like we actually have a route. That'll take us directly over Denver, Colorado, by the way. Let's generate that flight plan. And it looks like we will be flying at flight level 360, which is 36,000 feet for those of you that don't know. Yeah. And we'll go ahead and download that to our aircraft, or make it available anyway. Okay. Missoula. Looks like Missoula actually has some weather. 290 at 6 knots, so that's why we're taking runway 30 when we get there. 30. Looks like that's an R&P, RNAV approach. And I don't know what all this is. Is this like a circle to land kind of deal? Looks like it is. Or it might be. We'll check it out here once we get things fired up. Okay. Lunchbox, this is for you, future Lunchbox. This is how to start your 737 from PMDG, whether it's the Dash 6, 7, or 800. Interior is the same and the process is going to be the same. So this is how we start our 737 from a cold and dark state, assuming that you've already got cold and dark selected and set up for that. So there's a couple of different things that you have to think about when starting an aircraft up, right? Power. Things require power, and there's a couple ways to achieve that power initially. You have certainly onboard batteries on the aircraft. There are GPUs, or ground power units, that an airport can and sometimes does supply if you want to hook up to one of those. And there are onboard power generators that aircraft can sometimes have. APUs, or automated power units. This does have the ability for both of those. So the first thing that we're going to do is turn on our emergency power and lights, which, if you're in a dark environment, certainly helps. This is all running on the internal battery at this point. And then you can go ahead and turn on the actual power itself. So now we're running on internal power, and we can actually look at our battery, auxiliary battery power, look at those volts. So currently it's discharging power, obviously, without taking anything in. I don't know if this airport has a ground power unit. It doesn't look like that's going to be an option. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and come on down here. Now there's the onboard power, or automated power unit, does need fuel, so we'll go ahead and turn that on for the APU. And we'll go ahead and turn that over there, so it's starting the APU. Now, this EGT gauge, or exhaust gas temperature gauge, will tell us, of course you can listen to it spooling up, which is right here. This gauge will start going up, and once it peaks, it'll start to come back down. After it comes back down, we'll see an illumination here indicating that the APU generators are ready to be turned on. Once that is turned on, then our internal batteries will start getting recharged, and everything that we do within the aircraft is basically self-contained, right? We We have a generator going without having to have the big engines running and all that, which will help get us functioning. I'm just going to turn that light off. Okay, so now that it's leveled back out, we can now turn on the APU generators. Bada bing, bada boom. Now we can turn the APU bleed on, which gets us wait a second. Yeah, anyway. You can actually see the valve door there too. Anyway, next what we'll do is go up here and make sure that our hydraulics and that are all turned on up here. And if you want, you can check your APU generator output. Verify that our battery is going back up, which it is, which is great. That's what you want to see. If it's dark, of course, we can turn our panel lights on. And I think there's a panel light down here. Clear those alerts. Okay. So we're basically, and let's see, this thing over here. This basically controls the airflow of the aircraft, so APU bleed means we can supply air coming out of that unit to both, for a couple things. I am already lost. Will there be a quiz after this? No. Anyway. And I am not I would just want to go on record. I am not a professional pilot or anything like that. So do what you will with that. But anyway, we can get some, get our packs going. I don't think technically you really turn those on until after the engine starts. I don't know. Maybe we should just leave those packs off for now. Anywho. So it's really at this point you want to turn on the anti-collision light, which is the red light that is at the top of the aircraft and below it, which lets other aircraft in the area know that you're turned on and doing things. And it's just kind of a good safety feature, right? Lets people know that stuff's happening. The other thing you want to do is come up here to your IRS panel and switch each of those to nav. Now, depending on how you have that set up, it'll either be instantaneously done or it'll take a few minutes, depending on how realistic you have that set up in your setup menu. What we're going to do is set our fuel and payload accordingly for the flight. So this is all stuff that we have done ahead of time. So we know that our fuel is 46062, which I think it comes out just under that. Yeah. And then our payload, the only number we're going to mess with, you can have custom payloads. You can set, you know, it'll do boarding and deboarding of passengers and cargo if you want to take your time and do it that way. In our case, we're just going to go ahead and set this. and it automatically distributes that based on the zero fuel weight that we put in. Now would also be a good time if you have it set up to where it's basically left in the last state that you flew it in. It might not be a bad idea to go through, if you have service-based failures turned on, just go ahead and take care of all that. Replace brakes and tires, whatever, right? So, well, I guess I'm kind of jumping ahead here. So when you first come into the FMC, one of the first things you want to do, if you're aligned, right? If the alignment has taken place, which it looks like it has. I thought I had that set up to realistic time, but whatever. Usually, once that's done, it'll give you an indication that it's ready for positioning data. That tells the aircraft where it is in the world, right? You have a couple of different GPSs on the aircraft, and they're usually located outside. Somewhere around here. Anyway, I don't know. But we have to basically pick one of those. So what I like to do is I'll go in here in your index reference page to POS, that's positioning. And you have a couple of pages here. So we're going to go to our next page and grab the left GPS. That'll copy that. Go back a previous page and set it. So that's the positioning data that we're using now. The other thing that we're going to do is go and click on Route, RTE, and we'll pull down the flight plan that we have. So in this case, that's going to be, what did we say? SPS to MSO. There it is. And that'll take a minute to load that. It looks like, by the way, the positioning data hasn't completely aligned yet, because if that was, this would fill in automatically and you'd have the horizon line, sky and ground indicators. So I might have jumped the gun on that. It'll probably take a few minutes for that to clear up and finish aligning. MCO? No, it's MSO. And we'll activate our flight plan and execute. Perfect. So initially you'll be left with the waypoints that the route has. However, this has not taken into account your departure and arrival. So what we're going to do is pull up, and you don't have to have Navigraph to do this. There are other tools out there that can be just a nice visual reference. This just happens to be where I'm getting my charts from. So we're going to pull that from SimBrief. And this is the route that we loaded in SimBrief, right? Tetris, good to see you, dude. Welcome. That may help. What is that? Is that another video of a tutorial that you just linked? Okay, so what we're going to do is go to DEP and ARR. It's departure and arrival. So, per our flight plan, we're departing runway 33C. So we're going to go ahead over here and select 33C and execute. There's no SIDS, which stands for Standard Instrument Departure. So we're not doing that. We're just going straight. It looks like DCT, which stands for Direct SPS. So we're going to basically just take that and then be on our way. Now, we go back over here, and I guess we can pull up the chart here while we're at it. And that, just so we have it. And then runway 30. Let's pull up the charts here too. So approach 30. It's going to be an RNAV RNP approach. And we'll pull up the airport diagram here while we're at it. So we have that pinned. This looks like a very funky approach, by the way. And it looks like it's going to be circling to land. I don't know. This is really weird to me, this approach. So we're arriving. RNAV 30, and it gives you a couple of options for a transition: MSO, Pixie, or Weddick. Now, based on where we're coming from, which is going to be towards the south, it looks like coming down here to Weddick would kind of give us a straight in, more or less, straight in option. Kind of just join right in here and then circle in. So that's what we're gonna select is the Weddick transition. That's transitioning you from the descent into the actual approach itself, basically, is what the transition stands for, and we'll go ahead and execute that. The next thing we're going to do is go over here to our perf page. This is your this is where all of your data resides, where basically you're telling the aircraft how heavy you are, what altitude you're flying at, all of that, right? So that it can figure out everything else in between. So we know that we're going to be flying up at flight level 360. So we're just going to type in FL 360. And we know our zero fuel weight is 128. We'll put 128 in there. And reserves, you can just, whatever your reserve is. I just put 5 in there. That's pretty arbitrary. But that will trigger, I think, when you start seeing low fuel warnings or something like that anyway. And then the cost index basically just, is whatever. I always just typically use 36 for that myself. So now okay, there is the alignment that just took place, by the way. You can see the align light is now no longer lit up there. So we can actually go back down here and just for the lulls. Yeah, okay, we're good. Just want to make sure it took that positioning data. As far as takeoff goes, right? You can tell it how we want to take off. So I'm going to say that we're going to be using 5 degrees of flaps. So we'll put a 5 in there. And that will automatically generate our V speeds. V1, rotate, and V2. The other thing we want to do is get our center of gravity and takeoff trim, so we can set our takeoff trim, which looks like is 5.76. We'll put that close to that. There's 5. It's like maybe right about there-ish. So we're good on that. And you can set, wind and all that, which we will get to here. So, pulling up our chart for this airport, looks like the ATIS is 13205.
Oscar 1900 Zulu.
And then it looks like our altimeter is going to be 3030. So we'll set that here.
Clear. Temperature 2.10. Altimeter 30.30.
Which
Visual runway 15
you can
left,
set the
visual
altimeter
runway 15
automatically.
right,
There's a
ILS runway 15
keystroke for
center
that.
in use. Landing and departing runway 15 left, runway
But that brings
15
us right up
runway
to the
15
ground level,
center.
which is what we want to
VFR
see.
aircraft, say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions. Advise controller on initial contact, you have Oscar. Shepherd Airport information, Oscar 1900 Zulu. Wind calm. Visibility 10. Sky condition clear. Temperature 2.10. Altimeter 30.30. Visual runway 15 left, visual runway 15 right, and ILS runway 15 center in use. Landing and departing runway 15 left, runway 15 right, and runway 15 center. VFR aircraft, say direction of flight. All aircraft read back hold short instructions.
And then we'll just pull up
initial
the...
contact, you have Oscar.
I always put the one for the destination we're going to, so I can switch to that if we need
Shepherd
to.
Airport information, Oscar 1900 Zulu.
12665.
Wind calm. Visibility.
Okay. And then that'll be it for that for the moment. Raise the hearing loss? Yes. And we can set our autopilot because we're going to be, I mean, if you're getting guided out, you won't do this right away. You'll set it to an initial climbing altitude and then ultimately up to your cruising altitude, but we're just going to set it to our cruising altitude. And then it'll be important that we set that same number up here so that everything can pressurize in the cabin. Right? And alternatively, we also want to look at the elevation for the airport that we're going to, 3,200. Good in the neighborhood. Okay. Beautiful. Go ahead and start on air here real quick. Bear with me. Make sure our numbers match, or at least are close, and they definitely are. Gotta love that. Now what we want to do is look at our flight plan and just make sure that it makes sense, right? We want to make sure that there are no super unexpected sharp turns anywhere, all of that, right? So what we can do is take this little this little knob here and flip it over to plan. And then what we can do is go in here to our legs, which now have the speed and altitude restrictions applied to them. There's a discontinuity there, which is just letting us know that it wants us to tell it how to get to that approach point. So we're just gonna plug this transition point right in there. Wed act. And execute. Perfect. All the way down to runway 30. It looks like it actually created, this aircraft does that, where it'll create its own in-between steps on an approach like that to help make sure that everything transitions nice and smoothly, which is great. We'd love to see that. Okay, so now that we have this on PLN, we can actually increase our range if you want to zoom in or out. So what we're going to do is click on step, and that'll bring us to the next waypoint in each of these. So we went from SPS. Which is 321 miles to LAA. And then from there we go to HGO, and CTR tells you where it's centered on, which waypoint, so you know which one you're on rather. And then we go to Quail, FQF, Thompson, Ridgey, RIW, Haya, which is right next to our top of descent markers, so that means when we get to that point, we'll start descending, so we can make it to, it looks like we can make it to this transition point. We'll be at 19,200 feet. And then from there, ooh, okay, so I'm actually kind of glad we just noticed that, because that's kind of a unnecessary turn, isn't it? But you know what? Maybe that's okay. It's not the worst. Yeah, actually we're gonna leave that. We could maybe look at choosing this Pixie waypoint, which is still gonna loop in and turn here anyway. So I don't think that really is gonna matter a whole lot. In fact, we're gonna keep this map up, or this approach plan up, so we can see it. So from Weddick, we go to, let's zoom in here a little bit. We then go to Noah. From Noah, Tuffy. From Tuffy, Sibed, however you want to say that. Jexum, which is right there. And then is this? It's fine. And then of course there are the gradual self-created waypoints that the aircraft chose to put in there just to help smooth things out. Right? Because then it's going to bring us down to Stoughton and then down to the runway. Just like that. So that actually works out pretty well. We'll put that back on map. So from here, what we'll do is put our parking brake on. We want to make sure that everything is disconnected, doors are closed, all of that. So ground services, we can actually just click on wheel chocks removed, and that'll remove all of the carts and close all the doors automatically. Beautiful. And you can even go back here 2 doors and just make sure that all of those are closed. Looks like they are, and you can verify that because you'll have an annunciation panel here that will tell you if doors are indicating that they're open or closed. Okay, so from here we're pretty much rocking and rolling. We need to test our systems, though, just to make sure everything is A-OK. We can make sure that we're able to detect traffic. We'll go ahead and run that test. A little TCAS test.
TCAS test. Pass.
Beautiful. You'll love to hear that. And then general systems test.
Glide slope. Pull up. Wind shear. Wind shear. Wind shear. Terrain. Terrain. Pull up.
Airspeed low. Airspeed low.
That's good. And we can test all of our cockpit lights. Make sure those are all working. And it looks like they are. We have no lights out to worry about. Test those lights. Everything looks good. The other thing we'll do is come down here. And we'll test these lights. And we'll test fault in the APU or engines, and we'll test fire and overheating. And that's good. The other thing we can do is test our stick shakers on, I'm sorry, overspeed warnings on the left and right side. Both of those are working. Stick shakers on the left and right side, respectively. Camera angle gets a little weird here. And then we can also test our flap indicators. Those are good. You can actually switch this thing to indicate positioning data, your heading, wind, speed, and direction, all of that, which is cool. We can also test the flight recorder if you want to do that. And the cockpit voice recorder, you can hold that for 5 seconds, and if you see a green light, good to go. All right. Looking good in the neighborhood. So from here, we'll kick on our fasten seatbelt safety signs and sit the fuck down lights. We should look at pushback. Let's go ahead and turn our flight directors on both sides. Successfully indicated by the FD light. So we want our nose to come out this way so we can point that direction for taking off, yeah? So we'll head down here into our menu and go into pushback. And that'll be the nose turning left, 90 degrees.
Cockpit to ground.
Go ahead.
We've been cleared for push and start, tail to the right.
Copy that, ready to push. Tail to the right. Parking brakes release, please.
You can just join the multiplayer server. You don't have to, like, add me. Should be able to just join the USA East server and be able to see me here.
Brakes released.
Forgot about releasing the brakes. This is SPS to MSO.
Brakes released, here we go.
I'll put the routing here in case anyone wants it. No, you could just, like I said, you can just join. You can just join the server, and all is good. The reason I say that is because I don't want to just keep going into my menu and pausing the sim and adding people that always want to add me. So it's just easier this way. I see Zesty taking off. Is that a Dreamliner? Dude. Awesome.
Pushback complete. Parking brake, please. Brake set.
And while we're at this,
Steering pin is pulled. Watch for the salute and release from guidance on your right. Have a good flight.
333 is the heading for which we are departing. That way we have some guidance coming out. Now the shitty part about this is we don't really have a whole lot in terms of taxiway. That's fun. Okay, so we're basically good for engine start now. Just pull the legs back up here. Okay, so for starting your engines. Start your engines. We want to make sure our APU bleed is on. Packs go off, which they are currently, which is perfect. We want to make sure our fuel pumps are all turned on. And once the lights are out, you can start engine 1 or 2 of your choice by flipping that over to ground. Now, once this N2 number gets up to 20, you can introduce fuel.
Monitored until you land and shut down the engines.
And we will wait until the starter is completely off before we start the second one. We can put our systems page up down here to look at hydraulic, brake temps, all of that. Okay, get started on engine 2. Let's fire up 1. Got rotation. And 2. And introduced fuel. We'll set our auto brakes to RTO, which stands for rejected takeoff. And we'll go ahead, while we're thinking about it, and put our flaps down to 5 degrees of flaps, which is what we told the flight computer it would be at on takeoff. You don't have to do that right away. You can wait until you get out to the runway, which is fine. And on our map here, what I like to do is certainly have traffic indications, but terrain too, especially if you're in a mountainous environment. Okay, so we got 2 good engine starts. Now, what we can do is verify that our engines and generator, let's see, yeah. We're going to go ahead and flip it over from APU generators to the engine generators. And we're good. We can check generator 2 and generator 1. Beautiful. So from here, we can turn on our packs. APU bleed can go off. We don't need that anymore. And we can turn on our landing lights, taxi lights, turn off the APU. Logo light can go on, positioning strobe data, or lights data. And we can kick on our yaw damper, probe heat, and window heat. Beautiful. And we are ready to roll. It's not on it, is it, anymore? Can't tell. Oh, there we go. So for 33C, it looks like what we want to do is get out here to Echo, and then we can take Echo down to Delta and then Foxtrot over, crossing 33 left. L Crack joins us in the TBM. It reminds me of L Weed from what was that movie? Blow? L Weed.